It's the armed forces that have joined this big battle against COVID's second wave. From the Defense Research and Development Organization to the Army, to the Navy, to the Indian Air Force, our brave soldiers have once again come to the fore. They've come to the forefront of this war on coronavirus.
The armed forces have been roped in to fight the battle against the coronavirus pandemic. Giant C-17 Globemaster aircraft of the Indian Air Force are flying empty oxygen tankers to Panagar in Bengal and other locations for speedy refilling. Once filled, the tankers move by train to their destination for supply of oxygen to different states. The Indian Air Force has deployed C-17s and the heavy lift transport aircraft IL-76 for movement of oxygen tankers. Similarly, C-130J Hercules aircraft are being used for movement of men and material to the worst affected states. Doctors and medical teams from Visakhapatnam, Kochi, Mumbai and other locations are being moved to set up and man COVID care facilities in different parts of the country, including Delhi, Gujarat and Bihar. The Armed Forces Medical Services have also got the green light for emergency procurement of 23 mobile oxygen generators from Germany. These generators are being airlifted from Germany and will be deployed in different parts of the country at military hospitals. These plants have a capacity to generate 40 liters of oxygen per minute and can generate 2400 liters an hour. Each plant can cater to 20 to 25 patients a day and is expected to be operational within a week's time. The Armed Forces doctors and the Defense Research and Development Organization have set up a 900-bed hospital in Gujarat in collaboration with the Gujarat University. These COVID care facilities have ventilators and oxygen supply.
ગુજરાત સરકાર DRDO અને સેન્ટ્રલ પેરામિલિટરી ફોર્સિસના ડૉક્ટરો આ ત્રણેય ભેગા થઈ લગભગ 950 બેડ જેની અંદર 250 બેડ ICU બેડ હશે એ સુવિધા આવતીકાલથી અમદાવાદના શહેરીજનો માટે ખુલ્લી મુકાશે.
The DRDO and Armed Forces have already set up a 250-bed COVID care facility in the national capital near the airport and is being augmented for an additional 250 beds. Apart from Delhi and Gujarat, similar facilities are also coming up in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. The Indian Air Force is also airlifting biosafety cabinets and autoclave machines to Leh to set up additional testing facilities. Top sources tell India Today that resources are being mobilized from across the country to chip in. But resources in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh are not being touched given the operational requirement. Bureau Report, India Today.
The armed forces have joined the fight against coronavirus as the second wave sees a huge spike. Indian Air Force aircraft moving oxygen tankers, men, material, medicines. The DRDO has set up additional COVID facilities. Army, Navy and Air Force doctors and medical staff are providing urgent medical attention. Joining me on India Today is Surgeon Vice Admiral Rajat Datta, Director General of the Armed Forces Medical Services. Admiral, welcome on India Today. The Armed Forces, Admiral, have for decades, they have the experience of setting up field hospitals. Where all are you setting up these hospitals and what are the facilities, sir?
Thank you, Gaurav, first of all, for inviting me. We are at the moment putting up hospitals in various locations across the country. First of all, we have put up in Delhi, the DRDO hospital near the T1 area. More hospitals are coming up in Ahmedabad, Lucknow, Varanasi, Prayagraj, Patna, in that way.
And all these hospitals, will they be like the one in Delhi with ICU beds and oxygen supply everywhere?
Yes, so far it appears like that only. All state-of-art facilities, ICU, beds, ventilators, monitors, everything.
Sir, last year, 1,000-bed hospital had been set up in the national capital, but if I remember correctly, less than 400 were occupied. How is the situation so different this year? Like the day you set up this 250-bed hospital near the airport, within a couple of hours, there were huge queues and every bed was occupied.
You're absolutely right, Gaurav. Last year, when we started this hospital, in the first month, overall in 30 days, we admitted about 50 to 70 patients only. And this time, as you said, in the first 2 hours of its opening, the hospital got swamped with 250 critically ill patients. So we are well aware that this time around the wave is very strong. It's like a tsunami. The virus has become very infectious. It is moving around rapidly from one individual to another. Positivity rates are very high, and that's why we're seeing such huge numbers.
How bad has corona hit our armed forces, sir, in the second wave?
Fortunately, armed forces have been doing very well so far, and I hope that it continues to remain this way. Our numbers are much, much less compared to the national numbers, even when they're adjusted for the locations. Our numbers have been largely in around low 2-digit numbers, high 2-digit numbers, or very low 3-digit numbers.
Okay, and what's the reason for this? Because when you see Delhi, when you see Mumbai or other parts of the country where cases have just surged and you see the hospital facilities are overwhelmed, how is Army or the armed forces, how have they been able to save themselves from this tsunami?
I think there are two basic reasons. The first reason being that we are a disciplined force, and the appropriate behavior for COVID, that is the social distancing, hand washing, masking, is followed diligently across the entire armed forces. The second reason being that we have carried out our vaccination program with great alacrity. At the moment, nearly entire armed forces personnel are immunized with both the shots.
Okay, and in your appreciation, because they've all been vaccinated, it helps, and how?
Vaccination definitely helps. And as I said, today we have administered close to 27 million doses of Covishield. And what we call it as vaccine breakthrough, that means those who have received full doses of vaccine, and say about 2 weeks after that, those who have developed any kind of COVID-like symptoms, then total number at the moment is around 700. Mild, most of them are mild, a few of them are moderate, which means that the vaccine is extremely efficient in making sure that the individual doesn't land up in hospital, doesn't land up in ICU. Nearly 99% effectiveness we are seeing on ground.
That's indeed very heartening to hear. So you would strongly recommend vaccination when it starts for everyone above the age of 18 from the 1st of May?
Absolutely. See, most of our armed forces are young people. And if they're doing well, I see no reason why the common man in the streets, young people, why would they not have similar effects?
Admiral, what are the best practices of the armed forces in your view that general public can also adopt?
I think first of all, we have to be very clear that we have this enemy and we have to recognize it and respect it, because this virus will lose no opportunity to attack us. And therefore, we need to be absolutely diligent, absolutely strict about social distancing, about making sure that your mask is worn properly all the time, about hand washing. We have to be absolutely religious about it.
Okay. Those who get infected, those who get impacted, how many of them in your view will reach hospital? How many of them in your view would require critical care?
That is another big myth which is going around. And because of the panic-like situation, people are reacting little, I would say a bit overboard. Out of 100 individuals who will get corona, not 85 will have no issues at all. They will walk through a cold, like a mild cold-like symptoms and have no other issues. About 15 may have some problems from moderate, and about 5 will get into a critical kind of a situation. So more or less things are fairly under control, and that's the way the numbers are going to play out.
So when we look at these images on our television screens, people rushing to hospitals, people unable to breathe, people not having access to remdesivir or oxygen or beds, how do you look at these images and the situation in our armed forces, sir?
There is no doubt that the numbers are huge. Our population is large. And therefore, even given the normal percentages of 85% or 10% or 5%, the percentage converts into large numbers. But I am pretty certain that from the calls that I receive and the kind of patient that we see, that there is a lot of panic among the population, and people need to calm down on this, make sure that things are under control, and they react appropriately.
Okay. Sir, are you thinking of the weeks and months ahead? As far as the armed forces are concerned, we hear mobile oxygen generation plants are being acquired for military hospitals. In your appreciation, is the worst yet to come, sir?
When we look at other countries, we know that other major countries have had issues with the second wave, third wave, and even fourth wave. So I see no reason why we're going to be different and we will not face third or fourth waves. So this is not the end of it. And therefore, we are preparing for the long haul and making arrangements that we are well prepared for any further waves.
So that actually sounds extremely scary. India was able to come out of the first wave relatively better. Second wave is tough. And it's going to last some time, and then the third wave, and God forbid, then even a fourth wave. So how long, in your appreciation, will we remain masked up, sir?
Difficult to guess, but end of this year.
Till the end of this year, at least we remain masked up. So when does this wave peak in your appreciation? The facilities that the army is setting up, in your appreciation, because last year we dismantled this 1,000 bed facility. All the facilities that are being set up, they should remain in place and perhaps continue to be augmented this year and next year?
These facilities will continue, and we'll see as the patient load decreases, we'll obviously scale it down, but that is going to take time. As I said, it's going to last for some time. As far as the duration of the current wave is concerned, the modeling is showing that it's going to continue at least till the end of the peak, will not come before the end of this month. But I also know that the peak will only be seen once we descend on the other side. So we have to wait.
We have to wait. Sir, the armed forces, they're giving an extension to short service commission doctors, short service commission officers who are doctors. So you will have approximately 300 additional hands on the deck. So is this your wargaming for the next 6 months, or is this your wargaming till the end of the year, or could last into early next year?
We are looking at end of this year, and that's why we have given extension up to 31st December for all persons who want to retire in this month.
Okay, so at least till the end of this year, you will need all hands on the deck. That's your appreciation, sir?
Absolutely.
In general public, youngsters are getting infected quite a bit, but armed forces, the situation you say is very different. Is it only because of discipline that youngsters out on the CV street did not follow the kind of discipline, whether it was masking up, going out for parties or festivities? In your appreciation, is parties and meetings and all of that is a strict no-no for how long?
I think it will continue like this for a couple of months more, at least. And till the doctors give a all clear signal, I think the youngsters have to be under control and make sure that they don't do all this inappropriate behavior. Also, as I said earlier, vaccination is very important. It has worked among the young population of armed forces. It will work for youngsters in the streets also.
Sir, this desperate scramble for remdesivir and other drugs that we see on the civil street, is that also the same protocol that's being followed by the army or the armed forces? Do you need these drugs? How are the armed forces treating their patients? Is it different from what's happening outside?
We follow evidence-based medicine, and remdesivir, where it is required, it is used, and we understand the actual value of this particular drug. So every patient doesn't require it. And similarly for other medicines like tocilizumab and all, you see a mad rush happening outside in the civil street, which I don't think is correct. And if we should leave the decision of administering these very expensive and critical drugs to the treating doctors. Problem is that the relatives, they press the doctors to give the drug as if remdesivir is a panacea for all things. It is not.
What would your advice be to those who are like desperately rushing to hospitals the moment they test positive?
My advice would be not to panic. First of all, various protocols are available. Keep an eye on the saturation, maintain good practices, and things are going to be fine for 85% of individuals.
Is there a lot of pressure even on military hospitals at this point of time, sir? There was a report about a veteran who passed away because he could not get access to hospital either in time or for what reason, sir? Are we likely to get overwhelmed in the coming weeks and months, sir?
I hope we don't get overwhelmed. And because we are expanding and augmenting our services all over, getting more beds, more oxygen supplies, and things like that. What happened was very unfortunate, and now we are given instructions that no veteran will be turned away from any hospital. We'll make sure that oxygen is available for all.
And is there a situation that if there are not enough beds, people may have to be treated elsewhere, like the way we saw in some foreign countries that they got completely overwhelmed? In the coming weeks and months, are we gearing up to deal with the situation that we don't get overwhelmed and the army is able to provide all that is required, not just to soldiers and veterans, because you're also deployed at the line of control and the line of actual control, sir?
Yes, we have an important role to play there as well, and therefore we are stretched at the moment, but I'm pretty certain that we'll meet the challenge.
Sir, many thanks for joining me here on India Today. It's heartening to hear that our soldiers, our sailors, our airmen, they're doing well. They've been vaccinated, and that's your advice to the rest of the country. They should get a jab because that really helps.
Thanks, Gaurav. That's very important.
Thank you very much, sir. Many thanks for joining us here on India Today.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.